Welcome to the Absite Smackdown podcast. We'll talk clinical scenarios, interesting Absite facts, and interesting general surgery knowledge. Now, let's get to it.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's me, your host, Jessica of Absite Smackdown podcast. And with me today is Dr. David Kashmer. Hey, Dr. David.
Hey, Jessica. Welcome welcome back. I was going to welcome you. I'm not sure why, but it's good to be back on the podcast with you.
Because I like letting you take the lead all the time, so you're getting used to it. It's getting comfortable. My master plan work.
You have me do the intro. I know. Well, it's good to be back with you.
Wonderful. Okay, so what we're talking about today is we've been hearing, especially right now with us working on version 3 with all the residents, how much COVID has impacted the way we're doing things. And I know we're talking about COVID so much, but that's not really what I'm focusing on this time. It's just kind of adding to it. So when doing research and trying to figure out how it's affecting it and how we've made changes, how it's affecting our residents, what they're doing differently, I ran across this article on AMA, and it was just diving into like what they're doing and on helping the residents with, during this pandemic and everything going on. And it got into a little bit, just not just their physical health, but their mental health. And I just found it really interesting and wanted to talk about that because things are very different today than when you were a resident, which obviously, like the work weeks are shorter, the way we do things, the technology, the tools, some of the stuff. I'm not saying the residents now have it easier. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying it's very different. And so I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, how it's helpful, what we're doing for the mental health, the changes we've made during the pandemic, especially compared to your residency, what you've done as a program director, how your experiences combined with today is making changes. So are you on board with that?
Let's do it. Here I am. Let's do it. A couple things, Jessica, as we start off. It means we need to be better. The whole work hours changes that came so many years ago. Now it's been a while. We keep talking about it, and not just you and me, but we keep talking about it like it's fresh. It's in part because it's so different, but they've been here a while now. It means we need to be better. What I like to say is we used to teach by what's sometimes called a brute force approach, which is just do a lot of stuff. We still had didactics. We still had all these things. But now that ability to do a more brute force, go do a lot of it mentality, and the residents still do a lot of everything. But that what's called brute force approach, we now need to almost be different than that, or better than that, you may say, because we need to do a really good job with a more limited time. And you may say we perhaps weren't using time to the best of our ability before, but if you agree with that or not, we can probably all agree that it sure is different. So happy to talk with you about it today. It has been a huge impact, not just those hours, but now the black swan of COVID. Black swans are these rare events that happen. There's a long story behind why the saying black swan came out, but these are basically rare events that you weren't really thinking about too much, and then you get blindsided by. COVID is one. We knew there would be some pandemic probably eventually. These have been predicted since I was in medical school, with things like the flu or some other virus being put forward as the culprit. But it really wasn't on our main radar, perhaps as much as it should have been. So anyway, here we are, and here you and I are, and I'm happy to talk about it with you.
Wonderful. Okay, so when I was reading this article, and it was going through not just surgical residents, but all different kinds of residents in different fields and what they were doing, and their work hours, and how they had scaled and done things differently. I know we do talk about the hours a lot, but when we were talking with Dr. Carlos, he had talked about that they could do things about making the residents like game nights, getting them out of the hospital, making sure that they have rest, that they have study time back with their mothership. I love using that word. I'm such a nerd. Anyways, all of that and how different that is. And so, with you, managing a whole residency and being a program director, what did you find yourself doing because of how difficult it was when you're a resident? I mean, you've told me stories that we may not ever talk about on here about the things you did to stay awake, to stay steady, to do stuff. And, so that no one has to, everything that you do, besides just writing this book, but being a resident director, is to make it better for the coming generations. Like, everything you do is to make it better and easier. So what have you adapted? What have you done to help residents, mental health, rest, learning better, especially in how that can help right now with this pandemic?
Yeah. Well, first, yes, there are definitely some stories that I probably will not share on here. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of what you asked is really spot on. And when you say, what did we do when I was a program director, when in previous life program director, what did I do? Well, Absite Smackdown. You guys were great about helping set this up. And why did we do it? We did it because I really saw, and the reason I looked around to try to help build this is that I really saw coming, not COVID, but things that were going to require us, or it would be better for us to have asynchronous lectures, things you could watch at different times from anywhere on any device. And boy, wouldn't it be great if that also had a review book that it matched. And boy, wouldn't it be great if we could do this, like we said, anywhere, anytime, throughout the year and spread it out. So beyond just the book, the whole approach to Absite Smackdown that you guys have been so good about with incorporating social media in a positive way and all these things, that's some of it. But that's not all. I also thought it was very important to help residents get to know themselves. And these colleagues are people who've been through college, medical school. They're high performers. They really are. And most know how to study and succeed, pretty much all of them, or else they wouldn't be where they are. And so the next question is, how do you coach them to get to, how do you coach them? How do you help them get to the next level and become lifelong learners, enter surgery as a field in a way that will be sustainable so that they don't experience symptoms of burnout, emotional depersonalization, all these things? And how do you do it? And so we set up things to learn over time what kind of learners we had. What are we? Are we kinesthetic? Are we auditory? Are we all the different types that we've talked about in other podcasts? So like you said, Dr. Carlos, when he was on with us, he and I and you all talked about some of the things he does in the site that he helps run to promote resident wellness. And we did a lot of those things too, with some wellness events, focus on wellness, etc. And I'm going to add one more thing. The last thing is we looked at this and talked about just how much all of these things were focused on for residents with resident wellness and everything. And we said, you know what? We use science so much in surgery. Why haven't we put any science on this? Can we quantify how much physiologic reserve we have? And so we did some studies actually on attending. We used trauma acute care surgeons because that's what I had access to, where we used physiology, heart rate variability, resting heart rate, all these different things to see how it influenced us to make decisions, et cetera. So we took a model from pro athletes. Pro athletes use this same technology. And we applied it to ourselves as surgeons. And we did that to ask and answer the question, what does fatigue look like in us and how can we best offset it? So we collected a bunch of variables. We put together a paper and we're putting it through the publishing process. Like many papers, it didn't make the first journal that we submitted to, and we revised it. We're still working through that. So we do all those things. We said, let's do science. Let's try science because a lot of it was things people talked about but really couldn't quantify. And so I had an interest in that. Super long answer, but those are all things we did to try to do this better for the next generation.
I think that's a great answer. I mean, you use science for everything else in your profession. Why wouldn't you use it to make you better? So
yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Let's try science. That's what we did. Yeah.
Doesn't tell you. Okay. So, we've been working a lot with the residents lately. I know we've talked a little bit about how with version 3, we've brought on new authors, new people contributing to it. And, we've gotten so much positive feedback on the previous two books and what we're doing for this book. And, there's no way to go into this version 3 and not talk about COVID. I know a lot of us are COVIDed out and we talk about it a lot, but we'd be remiss to not include it because it's been an entire year of our life, and how it's changed. And I kind of want to know, what do you think coming out of this benefited the residents? What do you think it made them stronger in, that maybe wasn't something they had to think about on a daily basis before COVID, but now just the way we have changed protocols, the different things that you're doing on a daily basis, how has that helped to make better doctors, better residents, that maybe wouldn't have happened pre-pandemic?
We talked about it briefly in a podcast before, and to my mind, it makes them better, makes them more resilient. It's changed how we educate them, often in a better way, I think, to provide resources that we probably should have been, I think, a little better about putting out there early on. The tech has been here for a while for a lot of the ability to educate at a distance. It's preferred in some series by residents. There's even evidence on it now. There are different residencies, and we've talked about this before, that have published on creating a didactic schedule and curriculum that utilizes technology to do these things. So I think we could have probably done some of this before, and COVID pushed us to do it, which is fine. Sometimes you need a push, and necessity is the mother of invention. So there it is. But I'll share with you that I think this resident group that is training now, this cohort throughout COVID, I think it's going to make them better. I think it has shown them meaning it's made them somewhat more resilient. I think they've encountered something that I never had and yet been able to maintain training. I think that residencies have, all the residents we've talked to, and in working with several residencies, have been very focused on making sure the resident trainees get that critical mass of cases, that hands-on stuff that they need. So they've really done well to try to ensure that. So I think any issues with that will be minimized. And again, I think it has just really made for a group of residents that I'm pretty proud to work with, because they've experienced something like this, and they understand what it means to go through a pandemic on a global scale,
Right.
and all the things that can happen sort of in medicine. Very different than when I came through. And I see this difference in this respect as a positive for them.
Right. I think it kind of hints back to what you said, if it's not broke, we don't fix it. And it's not just in the medical profession. It's in a lot of things. If something's working, you can kind of be slow to make changes. But because of the way this happened, we've had the technology, we've had all these things, but we didn't really adapt it because what we were doing, it worked. And now this pushed it to make changes that overall can allow more growth, allow more opportunities, a little bit more multitasking, getting things done. And it's all happened because of this. Like you said, necessity is the mother of invention. And so it took away the reasons not to do it and just to make it happen. And that's where we are right now.
I think you're seeing it with the Project Smackdown team. For the second volume, we had a great bunch of contributors and authors and the illustration team. They're really good. And for this one, also very good. And I think you, in managing that team, and when you participate with that side of the work, I know you're not the only one to kind of be on that team from the company, but when you participate in it,
Right.
from what I've seen from the back and forth, you can probably appreciate just how resilient and interested and eager the residents are. They're looking to help each other too, whether that's in developing Absite Smackdown as a resource, or developing things that their colleagues can use in what is a difficult time for everyone. So it's let residents look across their programs and have a really strong attitude about helping each other out and doing the best they can, and making sure they're educated in this time. So it's been great to see.
The Absite Smackdown podcast. Visit the Smackdown at absitesmackdown.com.
It's kind of wonderful. Like, the whole community has come together a little bit in healthcare. Like, I'm not, I love all of our residents and everyone that we've gotten to work with this whole time that I've been on the Absite team and, been with the publisher. But I'm definitely noticing and just like the last several months with this group of residents and how we're working, and just kind of how like eager and grateful they are, and have such good attitudes and so positive, which you would think with how much they're working and all this going on, it's amazing to me and surprising and super awesome. And it just makes my job so much easier and me super grateful to be doing it. So
yeah, it's good to hear. This group for the Project Smackdown team is really fantastic to work with. I couldn't agree with you more.
All right. So we've touched on all that. I kind of want to it's up to you. Want to give a little bit of hints of what's upcoming and what we have going on?
Let's do it. You're the boss for that part.
Okay. So, recently around Christmas time, we did release the coloring book, which was super awesome, especially, for, I can never say this word right. Can you say it for me? The kinesthetic learning?
Oh, the kinesthetic learners. Yeah. The people who learn with motion.
Yes.
The ones who copy your notes. And yeah, it's been good. They've seemed to like it.
Yeah. And even so, and then after that, it was kind of a little bit of a soft test around Christmas time. And then we released the crossword book, which was really awesome. Kind of difficult. Like I work with the material every day, and it's super challenging, but so helpful. I really, really enjoy it. And so, now with us doing version 3, we're having all these new authors, all these new people helping us and making more content, more coloring books, more crosswords. And then version 3, am I allowed to give away some of the newness with version 3, or are we keeping that under wraps?
Well, again, you guys are the boss. I'm happy to talk about it here. And I think our mutual director has told me before that I'm allowed to talk about some stuff. So I say we do it. And you know what? If they don't like it,
okay. I just need to back me up so I don't get in trouble, because I'm always overly eager to share stuff. But
hey, I'm on here with you. If they let you go, they're going to have to let me go too. So let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. You're more important, but all right. So, we have gotten so much positive feedback from the previous books, and, we've made the changes, we've made the adjustments, but we are adding 2 new chapters to this book.
Yeah. So even though spread throughout the book was stuff about, the esophagus and the pancreas and things like that, we're going to consolidate it. Like you said before, feedback is, and in another podcast, feedback's tough. I know you guys are great about getting it. We want to use it. We want to keep making it better. The challenge with feedback sometimes it comes from other publishers who don't really have the best interest of the book at heart necessarily.
Gotta look where it's coming from.
Yeah, and sometimes it comes from people, like some of the ones we got about what was the one? The videos don't follow the book. I will remember that one because they almost follow it exactly. And you guys said, well, did these people even look at the videos? And it turns out they didn't. None of them had even seen this. It was just kind of, that low quality feedback that you get sometimes when someone doesn't like you, doesn't like the book, doesn't like something, and kind of has an axe to grind. At least that's how it looked. So that's what's so tough about feedback. And you did that whole podcast about feedback where we want to make changes and improvement. Which pieces do we take? How do we use feedback? It's been so true. I've learned a lot from it as part of the Project Smackdown team. And so for the next one, some good feedback that seemed to repeat was, hey, why don't you guys put out a dedicated chapter, even though the material is throughout the book spread out? Why don't you put out some dedicated chapters on a couple new subjects? And it clearly, the book, there's no review book that has every fact. It's very interesting.
Right.
However, the idea was to consolidate some of the facts that were already in there and put them into some additional chapters. So yeah, we're in the middle of working on it. Jessica, your Project Smackdown team, where they're typing every day, type, and we're trying to get that done for you. And so yeah, that's one of the newest things coming out, just some additional chapters and consolidation. But that's not all. But wait, there's more. It's like an Apple. It's like an Apple event where Steve Jobs and now Tim Cook used to come out and say, "But there's one more thing," and then they'd say, "And here's the iPhone." So we have additional stuff coming out soon. The monthly coaching sessions are going to start to happen. There is a conference in the works. So many things on tap for this year. It's cool.
It's going to be a big year. Hopefully I don't get reprimanded for this. We're going to see. But
well, they can edit it. They can edit it out, you know.
The Absite Smackdown podcast is based on the best-selling review book, Absite Smackdown, the only Absite review with an entire video review course included. Visit AbsiteSmackdown.com and pick it up today.
They're going to replace me with the... never mind. I'm not going to go there. Who
knows? Did. I auditioned
but,
3 Jessica-like robots while you were gone. That's what they did. So these guys don't mess around.
We're sitting here talking about how technology and how we've made all these advances, and I may be just advancing myself right out of a job. So we'll see.
I feel that way every day. Every day, it's like closer and closer. First, you operate with a robot at a distance, and you can sit down this console. Next thing you know, they just remove the David from that picture, and now there's just a robot that they'll be taking out your appendix, sir. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the Da Vinci machine is really cool, though. Okay, Dr. David. Well, thanks so much, Dave, for going over. I know we've talked about this a little bit and what's coming up and how excited we are. And again, I'm not going to say too much more or go before the machines take over, but just thank you so much for your input as always. And, I'm having so much fun. I love doing this. I'm looking forward to all the new stuff, all the people we have on the team now and how it's growing. And just the fact that, at the end of the day, even though you made this for the next generations and stuff, in your head, how you want it to be easier. And I know that you don't really like to take credit for stuff. And you always like, oh, you guys are the publisher. Yes, the publishing company, we're awesome. But at the end of the day, you kind of helped bring us all together. And, you make my job so much easier. And I'm so happy to share everything that you did. And so I just want to say thank you and how much I appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, Jessica, it's super nice of you, but it sounds like I'm not the guy to talk to about keeping your job after how much we just revealed. I mean, it's super nice of you. I know they threw you off the podcast for a second, then you found your way back in, and it's very nice of you to say all that. But I'll tell you, I'm really interested in where it goes next. I think really the main difference between this and many other review books is that the idea is to have this one be alive on social media, easy to share, able to listen to it in different ways, able to learn and absorb the facts and kind of make them part of your daily review. So super nice of you to say, but it's really how you guys have executed things, and where it goes next is really, it's been great to see. I will share that we're going to share the link to that American Medical Association article, and it's one that discusses all the different things around COVID, at least some of the physician resources, some of the tools, tips, and techniques that different residencies have used. That's going to be right down there. I've always wanted to do this, down there in the links section where we describe the video. So it'll be there. Eventually, other things I plan to do with this is like or subscribe button up there. I'm going to eventually get to do all this stuff. I can't wait till the editors let me. I can start to do that soon. It makes me feel like we've come so far on the Absite channel on YouTube. We're getting to be okay at this. And that's really because of you guys and all the hard work you've done behind the scenes. So super enjoyable. Thanks for having me on. And I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Yeah, as long as you do that stuff, they don't trust me with that stuff. That's all you. So you can do all the pointing. All right. Well, thanks, Dr. David, again. Awesome to be here with you. And for all of our listeners out there, don't forget #Absite Smackdown.
Thanks for listening to the Absite Smackdown podcast. Visit us at AbsiteSmackdown.com for more great Absite facts.